and basic. Have you ever used a plank?
I have.
You have? Oh, how did that go?
Well, not well. Well, it wasn't like a proper plank like the one that you showed. It was more like one of these iron bar.
All right, yep.
So it's actually like bark, so it looks a little bit nicer.
Oh, I would love one of those.
Yeah, I've got some spares because I'm not using them anymore. So if you haven't seen me, come pick them up. I mean, they're nice. Look, they're nice. And obviously they're pretty close to what plants would grow up in nature. And it makes sense, right? I think I would highly recommend it for somebody who is not necessarily trying to increase leaf size. Maybe for somebody who really hates the look of moss poles. If you really hate it, I think that's a good alternative.
Yeah.
And it's probably for somebody who's not really planning on propagating their leaves either. Now, maybe a little bit of a story time with SPG.
Yeah.
So I really hate these wooden planks because I've had like really bad experiences with them. So I had my Monstera albo when I first got it. I popped it on like that iron bark pole and it climbed up and it looked beautiful. And the roots were really digging into these little gaps in that iron bark, right? It was really happy and it was growing, and then it reached the top of the pole, right? Now, it's a piece of wood. It's not really, you can't just stack them on top of each other that easily because they're also quite heavy. So I actually thought, you know what? Let's actually chop it into little bits. Variegated elbows as a good way to swap and maybe expand my collection a little bit more. They were still early days for me. Now I have way too many plants. Please stop. I have too many. I cut them all, but because every single node was rooted into the iron bark, it didn't really come off. Like me trying to rip the roots, I just ripped all of the roots. These roots then ultimately ended up rotting because, well, half of it was just
still on the bark.
Yeah, the rot then spread into the cuttings. So I think out of maybe 8 cuttings, I lost 3 and 2 reverted all to green. So I was like pissed off. I know that wouldn't have happened if I would have grown it on a moss pole. Because by the time I take the moss pole, well, first of all, I wouldn't have to take the moss pole apart. I would just stack another one on top.
Exactly.
But even if I want to take it apart and cut it in single node cuttings, each node actually has created a proper root system with water roots because it's grown into the moss pole. So if you're ever planning on chopping your moss poles, extending your moss pole, extending your moss poles, if you want to grow this plant to maturity, you need height, meaning you need to go through a couple of chops at least. Then I think planks aren't really a good option because you don't have the propagation benefits. But if you just want to grow that plant up a plank, go for it.
That was the scary story. We'll move away from that scary story because this person actually wanted to know if when you're using a plank, do you have to use acrylic or some protection around the plank to make sure that it doesn't rot?
I didn't. I think ironbark is supposed to be fairly rot resistant.
Yeah.
It's not though. I can tell you it wasn't. It was definitely rotting as well, but not rot to the extent that it would turn into an issue for the plant.
But you had that in soil as well, didn't you?
Yes, in my normal aeroid mix. So yeah, of course, with everything organic is eventually going to break down.
I've got this one here. I've got it in Leca. And when I put it, because I knew I was going to put it in Leca, and it's literally going to be sitting in the nutrient solution, I thought, I have to do something to just protect that plank because it is going to rot. I mean, you can't put wood in water and not protect it. So I just got some waterproofing thing from Bunnings and I painted that and away I go. I've only had it for a few months, so I've got no idea what's going to happen, but I think that is better than nothing.
Yeah, for sure. But my recommendation would definitely, if you waterproof the plank, only do the bottom part that's actually submerged in your pot.
Oh yeah, no, that's that's
yeah, which you've done, right? You only done the bottom part.
Because I did only the bottom part, and I just came up a little bit because I wasn't quite sure if I needed to change the pot at some stage. So I've got that covered, trying to think ahead. But yeah, and then also you don't want your plank to be looking grey. It's just going to look a bit weird. But yeah.
I mean, from an aesthetic perspective, I think they look super odd.
They do. You've just got this random plank in your house.
Yeah, which also not like it defeats the purpose. The whole idea about using wood to me is to make it look as close to nature as possible. Yeah. But if we're then using one of the, to me, that looks like it's supposed to be manufactured into a bed head.
It is. So mean. You're so mean? Look at oh, come on. It's got my lovely.
Me, I'm just saying, like, that is just my opinion.
It's got my lovely cryptantha on it.
I mean, look, once the plant has taken over and covers the whole thing, then it's gonna look good. But I mean, people don't like the look of my moss poles. I'm so used to it by now. I don't mind the look of them anymore. So it's totally fine if you prefer the look of.
Tell me who doesn't like the look of your moss poles, and I will go find them.
They want to see the plant. They don't want to see the moss pole. And of course, it looks a bit weird.
But you can't have the plant until it completely covers the pole.
At the beginning, you might only have like a little bit of leaves and like a lot of empty moss pole over here. Well, it's okay. I'm like you. I have like a long-term vision in mind. I know what I want this plant to look like in half a year's time, and I'm setting it up for success right now. But
exactly.
Aesthetics are very personal to all of us, right? Like if something doesn't work for your aesthetic, then don't do it.
Exactly. You can do what you like.